The elder is a title, it's an office, synonymous with other titles, pastor, overseer, bishop. They're interchangeable. Now, what we often think is that the elders, the spiritual leaders of a body, are only responsible as like a one-way street to protect and provide for the sheep or the congregation. And that's true. But it's a two-way street. Yes, the pastor's placement, like a shepherd over the flock, is to shepherd those entrusted to him. At the same time, as these passages will reveal, it's also the congregation's responsibility to provide for and protect the elders, the spiritual leaders. So how do we do that? Well, first we define our terms. The word elder here speaks to an office, not an age. It's the word presbyteros. It's synonymous with the word maturity. So if one is an elder in a church, they are mature. They're to be spiritually mature. They're to be scripturally mature. The other word that is with elder is overseer. It's the Greek word episkopos. It's where we get the word Episcopalian. It means farseer or overseer. Overseer equals authority. So an elder equals maturity, an overseer equals some type of authority, but it's delegated authority. It's not their own authority. It's been authority that heaven has delegated to choice men. Choice men, as the qualifications entail out of chapter 3. We've covered those characterological requirements of this office. The other word that is synonymous with elder, overseer, is pastor, poimen in Greek. That word equals responsibility. A pastor, like a shepherd, has a responsibility to tend to the flock. Another word that I put with this definition is security. Your pastors and shepherds should provide some type of spiritual security and stability. That's one of the primary chief aims of the pastors in this ministry, is to provide a spiritual sense of security. Now, as we make our way through these verses, and we're probably not going to finish them all, there's a contrast that is occurring. The contrast up front is not faithful elders versus unfaithful elders. You want to know why? Because an unfaithful elder is an unqualified elder. An unqualified elder is a disqualified elder. The point is mute. No such thing. Should not be. So what is the comparison between? We're going to make our way through the language. Listen to me. It's a comparison between a capable elder and an exceptional elder. And what Paul is telling Timothy to measure is the work rate, the output. We've already gone beyond character. Character is chapter 3. Now he's going to talk about the output of the elders. And of course, it is a way to stir up any spiritual leader in any fellowship to consider and be introspective on the work that they're doing. Are they just going through the motions? Are they just a capable elder? Or can you say that your spiritual leaders are exceptional elders? Well, this passage is going to help you see the difference between the two. Let's get into it. Verse 17. Let the elders, as previously defined, who rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in the word and doctrine. Now, make the connection. He already talked about honor being given to widows. And now he is saying double honor. Is he saying widows are worthy of less honor than the elder? It's not what he's saying. He's saying uniquely, as the widow is given honor, there are also those in the midst of that spiritual community who are worthy of a double honor. And it's a double honor because it comes both with the sense of respect and honor given based on the office and position where God has placed them. It's also an honor given which is financial. It's where we get the word honorarium. It's scriptural to make sure that the elders, pastors, overseers who are working in full-time ministry are compensated for their efforts, counted worthy of double honor. Within verse 17, you get excellence is the standard, ruling well, not just ruling capable, ruling well. It's the word excellently, and diligence, as you notice, those who labor in word and doctrine. Elders who rule well. Ruling well, get this, is not about someone standing over top like a mini pope and ruling over a person or a body. Ruling well here means they're in the midst of their people. They're not in an office somewhere. They're not a board member. They're actually a leader who's serving the community. It means that they are spending their life pouring out upon the people that God has entrusted to their care. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, another letter that Paul wrote, verse 12 and 13, he says this, "We urge you to recognize those who labor," same word, "among you, and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake." Right? Another passage is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. "Obey those who rule over you, and be submissive, for they watch out for your souls as those who must give account." Who must they give account to? The Lord. There's no heavier responsibility than to stand to give account to the Lord on how, men, fathers, husbands, how we managed our home. Women, mothers and wives, how you managed your home. Yeah, the man is going to stand to account as the head. That's biblical. Just as pastors, overseers, bishops, and elders, we are going to stand before God, and we are going to give an account on how we managed and watched over your souls. This is a very serious calling. And it requires the church, the community, the congregation to understand the terms, just as you would want your spiritual leaders to understand their responsibilities. Let me finish that verse. "Let them do so with joy and not with grief, for that would be unprofitable for you." For them to manage and oversee and watch over, and yet for it to be something that is grievous, not burdensome. Those types of burdens come with the territory. There are times where I personally cannot get a sound night of rest because I'm thinking through or praying for something that someone in this faith community is navigating. That's a burden that is good to bear. This passage speaks to the fact that sometimes there are unnecessary grievances that are brought to the spiritual leaders, which I believe at times in an unhealthy community are distractions to the real work that needs to be done, right? So it's actually a call to all that our spiritual maturity would be risen, would be raised. I love this first verse because it says that elders that rule well do so not as overlords, but as vassals under the Lord. And that word vassal is a word that was used more frequently in the Middle Ages. It entailed a landlord, where we get the word, who would entrust land and responsibility to a vassal. They weren't necessarily the owners of the land. They would eventually stand to account on how they managed the land, but they were instead of the Lord of that land being physically present, they were vassals. They were vassal kings throughout different kingdoms. Did you know that the Babylonian Empire was so large and vast that the ultimate king, Nebuchadnezzar himself, he could not possibly govern over the territory, so he would leave vassal kings in his place. They had none of their own authority. This is exactly the position of elder. Elders do not have any authority except what has been delegated to them by the Lord, which ultimately means they have to know this book. You want your pastors to know this book, right? And by the way they know this book, it should inspire you to want to get to know this book. He says, especially those who labor in the word and doctrine. The word labor here, and you can look this up in Greek, it actually means exertion. It means energy. It means effort. It means exhaustion. It means you want your spiritual leaders to be exhausted in the way they study the scriptures and communicate them by way of instruction. It's funny because a lot of people think, oh, well, some people are right in saying that their pastors have an easy job. They're right. Some pastors don't do the work that they're called to do. I don't know about you, but I've been present at times in my young life where I've heard different ministers, whether online or at physical churches, the pastor steps into the pulpit and he goes, you know what? I didn't really have anything to prepare all week. And it wasn't until late last night when I was taking a shower and the Lord, he gave me this message and that's what I'm gonna share with you. And then for the next 30 to 40 minutes, they don't say anything. No. The word labor here is this person is spending every waking moment within reason and in the midst of other responsibilities, saturating their life in the word, cross-referencing, studying, listening to the voice of God, praying. So when they get into a pulpit or they're in front of a people, they have something to say on behalf of the Most High God. This is serious.